Hi everyone, Frederick here at Simple System Trading. Today's video, new example video on how to use some of my tools to automate a trading strategy. The disclaimer is valid for this video as well. I do not make any particular recommendations to trade any particular way. Trading is risky, your losses are real. Do not commit any live money to anything you haven't researched well. That's the warning. Let's dive into the video. For this video, you need to make sure you have access to the FreeBundle. You can get access through my website here. There's also a blog post describing how you can get access. Those instructions will be emailed to you if you sign up. This is the list on the FreeBundle. The opening range high-low study is part of that bundle. You will also need to get a trial license or sign up for a license on the auto trading study. The link will be in the blog post, and you can get a 21-day free trial license to try out more things than described in the video here. After that, you can subscribe for a month or a year, recurring subscription. It's also possible and more economical to sign up for all my studies at a lower rate. All right, let's get into the video here. I want to start with a few simple Shira chart settings. I always like to move my chart around and see my crosshair. When I check chart values, I always use the crosshair with a tool values window to see particular values. So to set that up, I always do this. I go to tool settings, make sure that the support vertical movement is checked, make sure that the show Y and time boxes, crosshair is checked, and always on is checked with this setting. This will make sure that the crosshair is always visible and I can move the chart around. Another thing, if you have multiple charts, like here I have the 15-minute and a 1-minute, if you tile them, you want to see that crosshair in the other chart as well. To do that, you simply click global cursor on and you will see the highlight on the chart here. So let's move this 15-minute, and if you move to the end, you will see that the crosshair is global. It's at the same location on the 1-minute chart as I'm pushing it here on the 15-minute. And the same deal will happen when I move to the 1-minute chart. I think that's a very valuable setting here to have that checked. All right, let's get into the opening range study. Okay, let's start with the opening range study. Analysis studies, add custom study, and you'll find the FreeBundle. Click on the opening range study, add it to your chart. The opening range study starts counting after the start time. And if you use bar based, it will count the number of bars after the start time. And time based, it will count the time after the start time. In this example, and you can play around with it, but I'm going to use a 5-minute opening range. 5-minute opening range will plot opening range high and opening range low on your chart. Just like that. And with that, we can start to do calculations on the opening range. We can also define our signal. If you look at the tool values window, you will see that the opening range high and low for every bar has a value. And that can be used in calculations. So one of the questions I had is, I want to trade the opening range, but I want to use a midline as my stop. So we can set up the midline with a study called the Spreadsheet formula study. You add that here. It's in the studies available list here. If you want to have a more detailed description, you click the study description button, and that will show you a thing or two about the study. It has a quick link to the format of the formula, and you can educate yourself on that. This study simply goes through a formula. If the formula is calculated, it will plot them as the result in the subgraph. So it's fairly simple. So let's have a look at that. If we want to plot the midline here, we will need to do a calculation. We have opening range high and opening range low. The midline is a simple calculation. You can do it two ways. You can either add half the range to the opening range low, or you can subtract it from the opening range high. So let's do that. The formula for this is going to be the opening range low plus half the range. The range will be in brackets here, and the range is ID1 subgraph 1, that's the opening range high, minus ID1 subgraph 2, the opening range low. If that's calculated, the result will be plotted as a green line. I like to use dash. You can change your colors. Let's add it for a few more bars, and that's it. All right. We plot that, and you see every opening range has a midline. So it can be done with built-in shared chart studies. You can go further. You can, apart from a midline, let's name this you can also duplicate it and calculate an extension long, for instance. You can get a little adjusted. You do an extension of the opening range low plus some kind of percentage. This is 150% of the opening range added to the opening range high. You can quickly do that with this study. So let's color it different here, and you will see you have a 150% opening range target. You can do that for the short side as well, and just adjust that condition a bit. So this is the opening range low minus 150% of the opening range, and you can choose some kind of other color here, right? So that's simple calculations based on price values, subgraphs. Now let's dive into designing our long and short signals. All right, the opening range signals. We're going to go long when we break the opening range high. We're going to go short when we break the opening range low. So to do that, we're going to use another built-in shared chart study. It's called the color bar based on alert condition. This one. I'm going to add that to the chart. I always use this one for creating signal studies. If it's simple, you can create your signals based on this study. If it's more complicated, you might need to have someone code your custom study. Let's name the study. And let's make sure it's valid for enough bars. I want to see transparent background. For the long, I want to see blues. Let's make them nice and visual. We need to fill in an alert condition. The way the study works, you can also click the study description button, but you need an alert condition. If this alert condition is true, the subgraph will be filled with the output, in this case a 1. And for the AT, we want the long to be a 1 value. That will be red. So we're gonna simply define our alert condition for the longs. In this case, it's simple. It's a function called cross from below. And cross from below is, what is crossing from below? The closing price of the bar is crossing from below, in this case the opening range high. That's ID1, SG1. If that happens, then the subgraph will be filled with a 1 and colored blue. So you see that right here. This one is crossing from below. We do the same thing for the short opening range breaks. So we duplicate it, we go to the settings, we change the name, so we know what we're doing. We have a new alert. It's not cross from below, but cross from above. And then the closing price of the bar crosses from above the opening range low. That's SG2. If that happens, we're going to color something background here. And we want to have the output condition set to a custom value. And a custom value set to -1. That way the subgraph value will be colored with the background, and we'll have a, let's have an example here, we'll have a value, subgraph value of -1. You can check that with the tool values window here and have a look at those values. Here you see the long value of 1, and here you see the short, the value of -1. That's going to be important for the auto trader to see. So this is a fairly simple signal based on breaking the opening range. Now, of course, we see a bunch of signals here. We see a short and a long, and a bunch of chop here. You might want to filter out a few of those signals. And that's all up to you. You have to define your own ideal signal to work with, right? You might want to decide, well, I only want to trade the first half hour. All the other signals are irrelevant. So we can filter those signals. We can filter those on the alert condition we use them for. So I'm going to show you how to do that. There's a few other filter options in the SST auto trading study as well. We'll highlight that in a bit. First, I want to define my time bracket, right? So we take a new color bar based on alert condition, and I'm going to name it time bracket, right? Make sure there's enough bars in it. I will not want to see anything, so I will set the draw style to ignore. So it will not be drawn anything, but the subgraph will still be filled. And what will be the condition? Well, inside share a chart there is, let me look it up here. There is an example. You can have a look. It's in the studies, alerts and scanning. There's an example on time. You know, you can copy this whole thing here. This is a time bracket. And this time bracket I'm going to use from 9:30 till 10. Right here. From 9:30 till 10, this alert condition is true. The subgraph will be filled, in this case, with a 1 value, right? I'm going to set that. And if you use the tool values window, you will see that happen. The time bracket here is 0, and whenever I move into the time bracket from 9:30 till 10 o'clock, you will see that the time bracket has a 1 value. And that's something I'm going to use inside the signals. We will have to move this time bracket up because I want to have it calculated before the signal studies. And we're going to actually call this a signal. And the alert condition needs to be expanded now. So I will use an AND condition to expand on the conditions that need to be met in order to have a signal. So I don't only want to have the cross from below on that opening range, I also want to be in the time bracket. And the time bracket has ID 7, subgraph 1 equaling 1. If that happens, let's have it all capitals here. If that happens, we have a signal. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for the shorts. So it's going to be an AND condition. And I want to have a time bracket in play. Right? And I'm going to actually call this signal. So we're going to filter out a few things here. You'll see that the chop is gone. There's no more signals, no more backgrounds here visible, only 2 signals here. So that's something you can do for yourself. Define a few conditions, add them to your signal identifier, right? There's another way, another thing you can filter. If you look at the opening range here, already from the midline till the opening range, it's 10 pointer. That might be way too much risk if you put your stop on the midline. So you might not want to trade these. So let's add another condition here, another color bar based on alert condition, study, and we call that valid range. A valid range condition. Let's have a look. What would that look like? Just going to take an example here. Set this to ignore. The valid range. The opening range is ID1 SG1 minus ID1 SG2, right? I want that to be smaller than 40 ticks. This is an example of an alert condition you can construct. So every opening range smaller than 40 ticks will be valid, and that will fill the subgraph with a 1 value. You see what I'm doing here? I'm going to add that. This opening range is largest, so let's apply this condition to the signals. So we have an extension of the AND conditions here. You have the cross, you have the time bracket. Now we're going to add the valid range. It's ID8, subgraph 1 equals 1. That happens, we have a valid range, a valid time bracket, and a cross. Do that for the shorts as well. You're going to add ID8 SG1 equals 1. And on this day, signals will be filtered. There's no trades there. Here we have only long trades, still valid within the filters we defined. You can expand on any other filters you wanna define. So the video will be taking too long if we go into all those details. But this is our signal definition. So right now, after the signal is done, we need to identify how we want to trade this. How we're going to trade this will define how we configure the auto trading study. So in this case, we're going to do the following. The signal fired at bar close, we're going to enter at market. We're going to set a first target at 3 points, second target on the extension, and a third target at a fixed value all the way up. Let's make that 20 points or something. We're going to put the stop at the midline, and we're going to move the stop to break even when the first target is hit. And that's going to be the definition of the signal, the system. With that definition, we can add the auto trading study. So let's do that now. So let's have a look at that auto trading study. The auto trading study needs to be added on the bottom of your study list, and check your settings. There's a lot of settings here. I will highlight the most important ones. For other examples, go through the blog posts I made. The button number, it's quite an important one. That's the number I see here. Custom study button number 1 I use as a default. You can adjust your custom control bar here and add a custom study button. If that's added, you can reference it in the AT study and use that to turn on and off the study. I will define a session here. You have room for 3 different sessions, and the AT will only work when the session is active. I like to use the system time for the sessions instead of the bar start time. It's a bit more accurate. You want to check if you want to liquidate at the session stop, and if you turn it off, if you want to liquidate as well. We're going to use a stop and a target order. Right below, if you use the target orders, you have to set the target quantities. In this case, we want to have quantity of 1 for each target, and then the max position size will be 3. So the AT will never have a position open that's greater than this setting. Time before set to day. You can for some other systems you can also go good to cancel. Make sure that your broker supports it. We'll have to define the long entry here. So that's the reference to the long signal. That's why we named all those studies. Opening range long signal is this one. Opening range short signal is this one. And the SG1 is correct. The evaluation of the signal happens at the bar close. And we're going to enter with a market order. That covers the entry. This is part of the entry order. We don't need to set that. The exit options we're going to keep normal. There's also options to have certain rules set to exit your position. And then we arrive at the target options. So the target 1, first target, we're going to set at 12 ticks, fixed value. Second target, we're going to set at that extension. So the study SG value. Again, this is why we name the studies. Extension long value and the extension short value. Do we follow the study SG when it changes? Well, there's a 3 options here. No, add fill, or continuous. The add fill can be used to double check on slippage, right? Continuous can be used if your SG value changes. So let's set that at fill. For the third target, we're going to set a fixed one of 50 ticks. You can make that anything you want. To stop, we'll use the midline. Study SG value set to the midline opening range for longs and for shorts as well. Really make sure that you select the right one. Also follow the subgraph. Well, at fill I want to check that it's still at the right position. We're going to move to break even. That's a target filled trigger. We first set the trigger. Target filled trigger 1. That's fine. And I don't want any offset. So this will move the stop to break even. We don't do any trailing on this one. As I said before, there's other options here to limit the amount of trades the AT takes based on some daily trade stats, like the number of contracts on the day, the long, shorts, wins, losses. You can use that as well to filter out unwanted trades. This is what we have the study set to, and let's run this as a replay to show you that it's working. So we go to chart, replay, control panel. You will get this little control panel. You're going to set it to real time, start slow, and start that replay. When you start it, you first want to check if you have auto trading enabled global and chart. That's good. And then you can turn on the auto trader. You have a few controls here to turn it on and off. That's part of the study. You can turn it off on the button as well. Now we are waiting for our signal to happen. If the signal happens, the trade will be entered. Let's see. All right, you see it happen here. We have a market fill, we have a stop at the midline, and first target 12 ticks, second target is right here at the subgraph value, and the other one out there at the fixed value. If target is hit, we get a move to break even, and that's what we set it to do. And now it stops out. There we go, and we go short, and we get the move to break even, and the second target and the third target still in play. So as you see, that's the way the AT was set, that's the way it works. And now it's up to you to define your own strategy and run it, right? If you want to use different additional filters on other studies, you can continue to expand on those signals conditions. That's possible. There's a lot of studies in here that can be used to define your own signal filters and conditions. I won't go into that. I hope this video explains a bit more about what's possible with the AT study and some of my tools. If you have any questions, just send me an email. I will try to answer as soon as I can. All right, have a good one, stay safe, and till the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.